What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here with SpeakingLifestyle.com, and in this video I want to talk about should you contact events when you think they're not going to hire you. So, it's like you see an event and you think you're like, well, I don't really know. They look like scrubs. I don't really know. Are they going to hire me? Do they have any money? So it's like, should you contact those events or what? And this is actually, someone asked me this question. In fact, this is exactly what they said. So they said, I've been Googling annual meetings and I was excited to find hundreds of them. Good job. But then as soon as I went back and started to look for the contact info, 75% of them seemed to be conferences or conventions of specific interest groups and associations like political, academic, medical, economic groups. And then he sent like an example. Then he said, I can't see how a motivational or leadership speaker would fit into those. So do I contact them anyways to qualify them, or do I just move on and kind of just look for ones that I think are for other motivational speakers? So here's the thing. In the beginning, you're going to be doing things very differently with your business than someone who's already established. And so in the beginning, when you're contacting events, you have to think of everything as practice. You are practicing reaching out to events, because I guarantee you're doing it the wrong way when you're contacting events. When you're cold emailing, you're not saying the right things. You're not saying it in the right way, none of that sort of stuff. And so what you have to think about when you are contacting these events is all of it is practice. So there's a couple things that you're going to practice. You're going to practice in terms like, okay, is the subject line really good? Is what I'm saying really good in the actual email? Are people clicking on the link to my website? Are they actually looking at that? Hopefully you have tracking stuff to look that up. But what you're doing is you're practicing how you cold email. On top of that, so notice what he said. He's like, look, all these events, they're like political, what do you say? Political, academic, medical, economic groups, and he's a motivational speaker, leadership speaker. So he's wondering like, well, how do I fit into these as a motivational leadership speaker? That's what you're practicing when you contact these events. So when you contact these events, let's say I'm looking at a political event, right? So I see a political event and I'm thinking, okay, I'm a motivational speaker. How do I fit into this political event? I'm a leadership speaker. How do I fit into this political event? And so what I do, let's say I'm a leadership speaker, I'm going to say, well, you're a politician. You guys got to learn how to lead. If for any reason there happens to be a virus and it shuts down the whole world, you have to know how to lead. Like, you got to know. If for any reason there's racial protests, you got to know how to lead. And so probably not exactly like that, but what you're doing is you're contacting these events and you're trying to figure out how do you fit into these specific events when you're actually contacting them. So that's kind of what it is you're doing. You also have to understand that not only are you practicing like how to actually fit into these and practicing how to cold email, but you also have to understand that qualifying is done by contacting. You cannot sit down and look at an event online, wherever, and just say, nope, they're not interested in speakers like me. You can't do that. You can't look at events and say, nope, they don't have any money. You cannot do that. I'm telling you, the way qualification works in sales is you contact them to qualify them. So you have a gist of the target market that you're going after, like a gist of it. In the beginning, you don't really know. So your target market is like freaking this. Like, you don't know. You're just like, well, anything that has the word event is my target market. And then from that point on, you're contacting these events and you're trying to learn how to word your emails. You're trying to learn like how do you fit into them, and then you're qualifying them. You're basically saying like, hey, are you guys looking for motivational speakers? Are you looking for leadership speakers? Here's what I can do for you. I'm the greatest speaker alive. And so you qualify them by contacting them. I made this mistake several times where I looked at conferences and I just assumed, because conferences, they really do not pay a lot of speakers. The main keynote speaker pretty much gets paid, especially if they're very well known, they'll get paid, but everybody else are not getting paid. But you can still get paid. It's not like 100% of them don't pay. So what I did is I set up a lead score saying if it's a conference or a convention, I have a negative lead score. So I check mark it as, oh, it's a conference convention, negative lead score. So contact them once, maybe twice, and then that's it, move on. Whereas if it's like an annual employee event, oh, I'll contact them a lot more because the lead score is higher. So it's like, I've made the mistake of not contacting an event, and this is actually a huge conference, like massive conference, and I never contact them. In fact, I knew the lady in charge of the event. Like, I knew her. I just call her up. Hey, what's up? So I knew her, but I didn't contact them because I was thinking like, well, they're just this big conference, this big event. They don't really pay their speakers. Like the main keynote guy gets paid because they're like celebrity speakers, but everybody else are not getting paid to be there. And I'm like, well, if I'm not getting paid to be there, I'm not gonna be there. And so I didn't contact them. And then one day she hits me up. She's like, Benji, do you want to come and present here at the event? I said, well, I mean, do you guys pay? And she was like, well, yeah, sure. And so I was like, oh, cool. She's like, basically they paid me. And so it's like I made that mistake a few times to where I'm like, look, I'm never going to do this again. I'm just always going to ask them like, hey, do you guys pay? I'm just going to ask. And that's what you want to do. So yes, you do want to contact events, even when you think that you're not going to actually get hired by them. Because the reason why a lot of speakers aren't actually getting paid gigs is because they're simply not contacting events. They look at an event online and they just assume that they're not going to get hired. What happens if you assume you're not going to get hired? You're not going to contact them, and you're definitely not going to get hired. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's one of those things like what Wayne Gretzky said, or no, I don't think it's Wayne Gretzky. Someone, I think it was a baseball player. They said, like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Maybe it was Wayne Gretzky. I don't remember. Somebody said it. It was cool. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I think that is Wayne Gretzky. And so it's similar to you as a speaker. You're trying to get on a stage. Well, if you don't actually contact the event, you're guaranteed to not get on the stage. You contact the event so you can qualify them to see if they pay, to see if you can figure out how do you fit yourself in. It is not their job to figure out how you fit in. It is your job to figure out how you can fit in. So what you're doing is you're shifting your message a little bit, like the title of your presentation, in terms of like, let's say you're a leadership speaker, you go to politics, you talk about, okay, you guys are clearly leaders, blah, blah, blah. You're politicians, you're clearly leaders. Or what was the other ones? Let's see, academic. Okay, so I'm talking to teachers or something. I'm like, look, you guys are leading students. I'm gonna teach you how to lead the students better. And if a student says something, you smack them. In old school days. No, not like that. But what you're doing is you have to understand that it's not their job to fit you in. It's your job to figure out how you fit in. And so you're practicing all this with all of these events. You got to think of it as practice. Contact events. The more you contact, the more practice you're going to get in, the better you're going to get at it, and the more likely you're going to get hired. So that's what you do. Should you contact events? Yes, contact them. Yes, 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 contact them.